Welcome to Valley's Gold, a show where we explore the people and places who feed and clothe us. On this episode, we meet the individuals and animals who protect the California agricultural industry. So join me, Ryan Jacobsen, on this adventure.
Production funding for Valley's Gold is provided by
the Myers Water Bank and Wildlife Project, an educational outreach program working to teach students about water and wildlife issues in California. Field trips are free for all schools, and each trip's curriculum is based on learning about California water resources, valley agriculture, and native wildlife.
Everyone enjoys getting together to laugh, to talk, and mostly to eat. It sounds so simple, but the reality is that it takes a lot of hard work to feed us. The next time you sit down to eat, remember to thank our farmers, GAR Tootelian Incorporated since 1949 at 800-696-6108.
Heroes come in all shapes and sizes. At BRANDT, our heroes are the men and women in the field, the folks who work hard to put food on our tables. Join us in celebrating the Valley's real heroes. BRANDT, professional agriculture.
We are beginning our journey at the Fresno County Agricultural Commissioner's Office, a governmental body whose primary purpose and objective is the promotion and protection of the county agricultural industry and the general public. I've been joined by Eugene Hannon, Fresno County's entomologist. Gene, thanks for joining me.
Thank you.
I got to start with the basics here. What is an entomologist and how'd you get in the field?
So entomology is the study of insects and their impact on the environment.
So ultimately, you're a bug guy.
Yes.
And a guy that has job security because there's no shortage of bugs to identify, right?
That's true. And it's important for the public to know what bug is what, because some are beneficial and we need to keep them. Some are benign, they're just out there. And then there's some that are really bad pests.
And so in this county and this valley, what are some of the major pests that we would probably be more concerned with?
There's three main trapping programs. Right now in the citrus industry, the big pest there is Asian citrus psyllid. In the vineyards, our big pest there is European grapevine moth. And the third main program is our general detection trapping program. And there we're looking for exotic fruit flies, Japanese beetles, some other things like that.
And you mentioned the European grapevine moth. You have an actual demonstration here that you could show me how you read those traps and how they work. As a person who doesn't read these traps, I'm looking at this as a very overwhelming experience. I mean, there are probably, what would be not shy to say, thousands of bugs on this trap.
Correct. So our trappers, we have 8,000 some traps in our county. So we have 19 European grapevine moth trappers. They're tasked with the job to go out and service each trap. They roughly have 400 traps per person, and every day they're going by and looking at these traps and servicing them. And their job is, if they see a moth that's smaller than a dime, to bring it into us so we can verify if it's good or bad.
So we talked about the protocols you do to look for pests locally, but you're also concerned about those that may hitch a ride into the valley here.
Correct. We have agriculture inspectors on staff that go out in the field to look for these insects.
And then ultimately this leads me to the fact that you mentioned prevention. The consumer or the person at home all plays a role in this very important process.
Correct.
What is that?
Well, we understand that not everyone knows all the regulations and the rules, but the clearest message one can do is just not move fruits and vegetables around our tree parts. So we say don't pack a pest.
Great. And the consumer at home, what's a great resource for them to utilize to look for bugs if they have some interest in it?
Probably the easiest place to get an idea of what that is University of California Integrated Pest Management, UCIPM. It's a great web resource that goes through agriculture pests, home pests, backyard pests, garden pests. It'll talk about what it is, what the lifestyle is, how to manage the pest should you have it. So it's a great resource. That's what I use, and then I help walk people through that resource.
And lastly, Gene, I want to finish with, you also do a lot of outreach in this position.
Correct. I'll go to classrooms or nursery meetings or public outreach if they find a bad pest. Some of the classrooms is just for education. We like to educate the public, such as this show, on what are good and bad pests. So I have insect cases full of these various insects. One thing is just to show the diversity. We have tropical insects versus native insects. To show the kids what's the difference. It's pretty unique out there with all the different kinds of insects.
Well, Gene, I could say without a doubt, you are the most favorite person I've ever had bug me before.
Thank you.
Thanks for enlightening me on this very important position, not only within the Valley agriculture, but I think it's a position that a lot of folks just didn't really know existed until now.
Yeah, I count myself really, really lucky for this job because it's a lot of fun. I work with great people. The community's great. So I'm very fortunate. I love this job.
Thanks, Gene. I've moved over offices at the Fresno County Ag Commissioner's Office to learn how some four-legged experts are protecting our region using their noses. I've been joined by Patty, Samantha, and Soya. Thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having us.
I'm so excited because Soya, I think, is officially the furriest Valley's Gold guest I've ever had. But before we jump to her, Patty, can you tell me what the Ag Detector Dog Program is?
We go into the parcel facilities early in the morning with the dogs, and they sniff for the unmarked parcels that would have agricultural products in them, plants, vegetables, fruit, and then we open it up and look for pests.
And so why do you do that?
To keep the valley clean, keep the ag pests out that we don't already have.
So we're talking about, we know California agriculture is big, but we're talking $50+ billion big. And these pests can be very detrimental just because of the diversity of crops we have here. So it's dogs like Soya and Luna who are out there helping us make sure we keep those pests out of here.
It sure is.
And it's not necessarily about the fruit that's being shipped or the plant material, but it's those bugs that are hitchhiking onto it, isn't it?
Exactly.
Now, the process to get from dog to trained advocate for the industry, how do we go from there, Samantha? I know that you were paired up. You just celebrated your 1-year anniversary with Soya, but where did Soya originate? How did she become an Ag Detector dog, and what does it take for you to get trained to be ready for this?
Soya is actually one lucky girl. She was actually a rescue dog. She was a stray in the state of Georgia, picked up by animal control, and then was also then taken by Humane Society, where she spent a few months in their shelter. And then the National Detector Dog Training Center in Noonan, Georgia, sends people out to acquire dogs that they feel like might fit one of their programs. So she was one of those dogs that was picked up by one of the trainers over there and given basically a second chance, and now she has a job.
That is absolutely incredible. So started in Georgia, she's out in California, but as far as the training, I mean, how intensive of a program is it to take a shelter dog to an ag sniffing dog?
It's a very intense program. She had basic training before I arrived for a few months, and depending on the dog, their personality, how quickly they're learning, and how quickly a handler is available for them, they can be there for a few months, a year, even a little longer before they get matched up with a handler. And then, so she had her basic training before I arrived, and then we had 10 weeks of training together.
Well, Patty, how did you ever get into this position? How did you ever decide that you wanted to be paired up with dogs and go out to these facilities?
Started with a call from a friend here in the office, the Ag Commissioner's office, and it wasn't something I had ever thought about, but it's been a very fun job.
And what is your story with Luna? How did you get matched up with Luna?
Luna was trained. She was picked up in Santa Barbara, also at a shelter, and she was trained by a lady that trains police dogs usually, but then she trained her for the ag detection program.
Got it. And I know we talked about the upfront training, but I'm sure this is kind of a continual program, correct? I mean, you're always having to go out there and try to re-educate yourself on the new plant materials and just making sure these dogs are as sharp as can be.
Dogs sit on stuff we've never trained on before. They're really good.
Wow.
They add sense all the time without us even trying.
And we talked about invasive species, but I mean, let's just for clarity's sake, what is exactly an invasive species?
Something that we don't already have.
Got it. And those can, number one, if we do find them, can be very expensive to try to treat. But most importantly, that also can cut off exports for our products to other countries. And so that can be a very costly, not just from the treating standpoint, but for where our fruit can go.
Exactly.
A lot of these insects that could possibly come in don't have any natural predators, so there's no way to keep them kind of under control as they would be in their more natural environment from where they originate from.
Samantha, we got footage of these dogs actually participating in a work environment, and the work environment changes substantially. There's a lot of different types of processes they'll go through. Could you explain that, and how do you prepare them for that?
At these facilities, they can have a number of different ways to find a package that may contain plant material, such as inside of a truck up on shelves, so they'll get up on their hind legs actually and tell us there's a package up here, or say on a pallet. There could be a package in the middle of a pallet, and the dog will narrow it down, and as you help them pull boxes down, and they'll narrow it down for you and find the exact box. Also, we work on like conveyor belts, so the dog will work as the belt is moving and the packages are going by, and then alert on one, and we'll pull it off the belt and inspect it.
Got it. So Samantha, is there a particular breed of dog that's better than another when it comes to this type of job?
Well, for the ag work, they typically have lab mixes. They've got a friendly demeanor. We do a lot of PR stuff with children and stuff, so easily approachable. And these dogs also have a high food drive.
Got it. Well, that's fantastic. Well, Patty, Samantha, and Soya, this has been incredibly informative about an incredibly important program we have here in California. And again, thank you so much for sharing this information.
Thanks.
Thank you, Ryan.
Today's bountiful agricultural industry is assisted by a great diversity of crop management tools. To discuss some of these, I've been joined by Bill Oglesby as well as Dave Bauer. Thanks for having me out to BRANDT today.
Thanks for coming out.
Well, I'm going to begin with you, Bill. BRANDT's been around since the 1950s. Tell me about this wonderful organization.
Yeah, you bet, Ryan. It's a great little company. Started in 1953 by Glenn Brandt, his sister Evelyn, applying fertilizer to local growers in central Illinois.
Wow.
Yeah, it expanded from there to get some distribution throughout that area. Shortly thereafter, they developed a line of micronutrients and adjuvants and developed a distribution network throughout the United States.
And we're here in a warehouse in central Fresno. How did this ever come to be?
About 6 years ago, 2010, BRANDT had the opportunity to purchase Monterey Ag Resources. This is the company, is the footprint that was here when they purchased and what John had built over the years.
And Bill, we've talked about the history of the operation, but tell me about the operation today. It's really grown.
Yeah, Ryan, it really has grown. We today are under about 350,000 square feet of roof. We have about 9 packaging lines. We've got a strictly organic production facility and 2 packaging lines associated with it.
Wow.
We're operating here with about 250 plus products that we sell.
That's amazing.
From plant nutrition through adjuvants and crop protection products and all things in between.
And a lot of employees just out of this Fresno office.
You know, we employ out of this office, including the whole California, Western United States operation, about 130 people.
And you talked about all the production side. I mean, there's also big business operations. You talked about running the West Coast operations.
Yeah, we operate here with a business operation that includes our credit folks, our customer service that interacts with all of our customers on a direct basis day to day.
Got it.
We've got our warehouse folks.
Yeah.
Our they interact directly with the business operation, and then we've got our sales team that goes from marketing throughout the logistics and facilitating order.
Got it. And there's a very specific reason I came to visit you today. You guys are known for your crop management tools, and that's a pretty broad topic, but specifically it's plant nutrition I want to learn about. Plant nutrition, more commonly referred to as fertilizers, but there's a lot more than just simplistic fertilizers. What do you guys do in that area?
So you're right. Most folks think of fertilizers as their nitrogen, phosphorus, or potassium, MP and K, right? Our focus is really more in the micronutrient area.
And what is a micronutrient?
The micronutrients would be really everything considered outside of that MP and K.
Got it.
In the elemental chart, we would be talking about the zinc, coppers, borons. A lot of that is our focus, not in just those pure elements, but also in the most efficient delivery systems to get those into the plant. And that changes from permanent crops to row crops to vegetables.
It's the science of agriculture.
It's the science of agriculture.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well said.
Yeah.
Well said.
And Dave, bouncing over to you, we talk about product development. You guys are constantly evolving and constantly changing, and there's a lot of research and development that goes into these products.
You bet there is. As Bill was saying, there's a lot of technology available today that your parents and my parents just didn't have 15, 20, 30 years ago. And a lot of those things are available today to make things better. At the end of the day, it's all about what's right for the grower. And so we try to listen, we try to come up with and put those ideas that the growers are tossing us or distributors are explaining to us their needs, and put those into products of tomorrow. And so what we do is work with the latest vendors from a technology perspective to add elements for those new products.
And one thing that's very unique is here in California is just the diversity of crops. It's as much as it's unique, it's got to be a challenge for you guys, but also an opportunity.
Absolutely, and BRANDT boasts that we have the largest portfolio of OMRI listed, organically listed products for sustainable ag inputs for organic food production. And that's so very, very important. Those, capitalize on trends of the industry today. That's a big part of our business moving forward with those demands.
Got it.
It's interesting to note, though, these ideas for new products can take a lot of different paths.
Yeah.
From this simple little blend of fertilizers, if you will, that don't go through a lot of registration type hurdles, to things that take us years to develop and get through the regulatory process, and thousands of dollars.
Yeah. And Dave, Bill just mentioned the safeguards that build into effect. With all of these products, incredible amount of safeguards that are built in. But I know one of the most important safeguards is training, and you guys are really big proponents of that.
You bet, Ryan. So once we get a product ready to go to market, the most important part of our process is making sure that our salespeople know what the product is, top to bottom, so they're able to go out to our distribution and do the training themselves for those PCAs to learn what we have and what we're bringing to the table so they can deliver that message to the grower.
Because those PCAs play a very critical link into the grower, making sure that these products are as safe as possibly applied.
They're the specialists in the field, Ryan. They're the specialists in front of the grower to deliver that message. And we want to make sure that they have as much information as they can.
And Bill, I want to wrap this conversation up with, we've talked about the next generation of crop management tools, but you're also working on the next generation of leaders.
You bet. That's the constant challenge. First of all, through our BRANDT Foundation, that we operate nationally, and the biggest outreach is FFA, and we're trying to bring up help, at least in our part, bring up the next generation of leaders that way. We've also had many interns here that are now throughout the industry.
But really trying to do as much as you can to reach that next generation, which is your future workforce.
It's what it's all about.
Absolutely.
We have a very exciting industry, and we're anxious to bring more young folks into it.
Well, Bill and Dave, thank you guys for having me out here today. An incredible opportunity to learn about these very important tools to our agriculture industry. It's not by accident. We're the #1 agriculture industry in the world. It's because of folks like you that are making sure we have the right tools.
Thank
you, Ryan.
Plants need doctors too. I've traveled to Reedley to stop in at Tootelian to learn about pest control advisors. And I've been joined by Karen Musson. Karen, thanks for having me out here today.
And thank you for joining us in Reedley.
I am so happy to be here. Well, let's begin with GAR. Been around for almost 70 years. Tell me about this wonderful organization.
Well, Tootelian Incorporated was started by my parents, Gar and Esther Tootelian, in 1949. Right here on this was their farmland where our business sits today. And my home that I was raised in sits out at the front of the property. So we've been here for 67 years.
Wow.
And over that time, we've seen a lot of growth. And we've seen a lot of substantial growth in just the last 5 years with the addition of this new office complex that we're in today with 9,000 square feet.
Yeah, wow, incredible. And I'm here to talk about pest control advisors, but you do a lot more than just that side of things. I know with the regulatory side, you guys play a big role for a lot of farmers out there.
Well, of course, rules and regulations are what drives a lot of California's economy. And just in the registration of products that are used here in California, they're not only registered by the federal U.S. government, but they're also registered in the state of California. So there are a lot of regulatory nuances that have to be adhered to. One of our fastest growing segments of our company is actually regulatory compliance.
Yeah.
And we have people that do tailgate trainings and keep farmers and growers compliant with all the rules and regulations that they have to adhere to.
Absolutely. And I know today as well, we talk about regulatory and water's in that same sentence as well. I know
Water,
you guys do
of
a lot
course.
with water.
Everybody thinks about water. And we do have a water management system. We have technicians that keep your drip lines clean to make sure that they're working properly and you get the most efficiency out of them. And as you know, Ryan, a lot of products today are applied through the irrigation system. So the biofouling and mineral buildup is really essential to keep the system working properly all the time.
Absolutely. Well, you have a heck of a team out here of professionals, pest control advisors, and we're going to talk about what a pest control advisor is, but that team, you got a big one out here.
We do. We have 36 registered PCAs, or pest control advisors. They're sometimes referred to in the industry as plant doctors. There are roughly 4,000 pest control advisors licensed in the state of California, and we have roughly 36 of those. So all of our pest control advisors are very well versed and trained. One of the things I kind of alluded to a moment ago is we have an in-house boot camp. So whether you're a new PCA or an old PCA, we are always we want our pest control advisors always to be at the top of their game.
PCAs are interesting to me because they really are the blend of out in the field and seeing with their own eyes what's going on, lots of experience going on out there, but at the same time trying to blend in that technology because you guys, when we talk about all the things you're doing, a lot of it's technology driven. I mean, it's technologies that weren't available 10, 15, 20 years ago.
Of course. And, pest control advisors are really scientists, you might say. So they're relying on experience as well as knowledge to draw from. And so they'll go out and do lots of field samples and work very intensively with the grower, as well as we have 2 in-house agronomists as well on staff to design a program that will make them the most profitable while observing all of the safety and rules and regulations that are happening in their field. So sustainability and safety are really, really key ingredients to not only the pest control advisor, but of course to the grower and the consumer.
Arguably, the San Joaquin Valley has the most productive agricultural land in the world, and it's not by accident. It's because of these folks that are out there really helping these farmers find out whether it's pest control issues or just plant nutrition issues. You guys are really out there to help figure all those out.
Well, and of course, and as you know, and I know you've mentioned this before on your show, but California and the Central Valley is one of the most unique micro weather systems as well as fertile ground, where you're able to grow 400 different specialty crops. Nowhere else in the world can you grow the 400 specialty crops. Some of them are only grown here in the Central Valley, and they're very important to the nutrition and health of not only consumers, but children as well.
And Karen, you talked about the uniqueness of the crops we grow here. The one thing that just boggles my mind is the fact that between the years 2010 and 2050, we have to grow more food than all of previous mankind combined. And it's really a lot to do with the folks that you have here.
Well, absolutely. As you know, we're growing more food on less land with less water every year. And how growers do that, of course, is with the technology tools you alluded to earlier. So whether it's micro irrigation systems in the field where they're more efficiently using water, but it's also about early intervention of pests and and nutrition of the plant. So a lot of our business is based on plant nutrition, and we use a lot of different techniques for doing that. But our in-house agronomist, he will design programs that can improve plant nutrition, and plant nutrition is much like our own health. And so the healthier the plant is, the better the production and the better the quality of the fruit. So it's really important to be an early intervener of those things and use the least amount of input to kill those pests, right? Because we don't want to affect the residue. We don't want to use any more product than we need to. So we're much more precision about that. And of course, with a lot of technology, whether it's GPS location, we can pinpoint the pests and treat them where they're at before maybe they go into another field. So the precision and the accuracy and the timeliness of everything we input is really essential to producing the bounty of food that we do here in the Valley.
Absolutely. Well, Karen, thank you so much for exposing our viewers to plant doctors, something I think most people don't really think about when they go pick up that fresh apple or that fresh pear at the supermarket, but it's so critical to our industry.
You're welcome. Thank you for coming to Reedley.
Valley's Gold is produced through a partnership between the Fresno County Farm Bureau and Valley PBS. Production funding for Valley's Gold is provided by
the Myers Water Bank and Wildlife Project, an educational outreach program working to teach students about water and wildlife issues in California. Field trips are free for all schools, and each trip's curriculum is based on learning about California water resources, valley agriculture, and native wildlife.
Everyone enjoys getting together to laugh, to talk, and mostly to eat. It sounds so simple, but the reality is that it takes a lot of hard work to feed us. The next time you sit down to eat, remember to thank our farmers, GAR Tootelian Incorporated since 1949 at 800-696-6108.
Heroes come in all shapes and sizes. At BRANDT, our heroes are the men and women in the field, the folks who work hard to put food on our tables. Join us in celebrating the Valley's real heroes. BRANDT. Professional agriculture.